Okay, so I usually hear that there's a hadith that says that Adam was 90 feet tall, created 90 feet tall in heaven, and when he came to earth, he shrunk down from that 90 feet tall height, and his offsprings have been getting shorter as time goes on. So the hadith in Sahih Bukhari is constantly mocked by Christian critics or Christian missionaries and atheists, saying there's no record of humans being, very tall, like 90 feet tall or 60 feet tall in ancient times and prehistoric times, the times of Adam, Noah, etc., or biblical times. So they say the Prophet Muhammad is an error, or the Hadith is an error, because there's no records of giants on the earth who are, you know, 80 to 90 feet tall or 60 feet tall. Now, I kind of understand why atheists would mock this Hadith. I kind of get it, but the problem is both Christians and atheists can't disprove what that Hadith is saying, because if we read the ancient sources, if you read the Bible says the same thing, that there were giants on earth during the time of Adam, Noah, King David, etc. So according to the Old Testament times, there were giants. We read in Genesis chapter 6 verse 4, there were giants in earth in those days, and after that the sons of God came into the daughters of men in Genesis chapter 6 verse 4. Some giants also happened to survive after Noah. Numbers chapter 13 verse 33, and we saw the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers in their sight. So according to Numbers chapter 13 verse 33, there were giants in the land of Canaan. The people were greater and taller than we. So according to Deuteronomy chapter 1 verse 28, there were tall people or giants during the time of Moses or Moses' people, and people great were tall, and many and tall as the Acumens, who were also accounted giants in Deuteronomy chapter 2 verse 10 to 11. And land of giants, giants dwelt therein in old time, Deuteronomy chapter 2 verse 20. So giants existed, after the time of Noah, or after the time of Adam and Noah. So if all mankind is from Adam and Eve, and if Adam was a giant, then it stands to reason that his offsprings or his children would also be giants just like him, as the Bible, not the Quran, but the Bible records, you know, ancient giants. So what the Prophet Muhammad is saying is not new. It's actually found in the Bible. Uh, so Christians are just mocking their own sources because their own sources admit that they're giants on earth. We read in Deuteronomy chapter 2, verse 21, a people great and many as tall. So there were giant and tall people in Deuteronomy chapter 2, verse 21. Uh, and there were giants, after the time of Moses too. We read this in Joshua chapter 12, verse 4, which was remained of giants. In the kingdom of Og remained remnants of giants. Giants were in Joshua chapter 13, verse 12. Uh, Joshua encountered giants in Joshua chapter 17, verse 15, in the valley of the giants in Joshua chapter 18, verse 16. Uh, and Goliath. Okay, so Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits in one span, in 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 4. So my point is, giants existed according to the Bible, and we know that Adam and Eve are, these giants are offspring of Adam. So if these people were giants, then it stands to reason that their father Adam was also a giant, since according to the Bible, all mankind came from Adam and Eve, including these giants we find in Joshua, Deuteronomy, Numbers, and Genesis. Further, I found this website, answeringgenesis.org, where he talks about giants in the Bible, and he does give some reasonable explanation as to why we can't find, skeletons of giant humans. he says, as far as I know, no one has discovered fossil evidence for giant humans. And then again, human fossils are quite rare altogether, since humans are capable of avoiding rapid burial in sediment and other conditions that could lead to fossilization of the remains. Uh, what is indeed significant is that many giant versions of other creatures existed in the past and or still exist today. So he gives, a list of, animals are um, that are giant, that can be, bigger versions of themselves, like spiders. There's a bird-eating spider, which is 12 inches leg span, much bigger than, the average or the normal spider. Crocodiles, can be 40 feet long. Snakes can be over 42 feet long. Octopuses with 100 foot tentacles. Sharks can be up to 65 feet long. So you see that, like animals or, other, mammals on Earth can be much bigger than normal animals or normal mammals. Like, let me see here, uh, let me see if I can see beavers, right? So beavers are mammals, and they can be 7.5 feet tall. Uh, I'm trying to find like mammals that are, like humans. Okay, it's not on this list, but there are, like monkeys and apes that are much bigger than, normal, human normal monkeys and apes. The fact that scientists have discovered animals with body sizes far greater than those observed today suggests, at least in theory, the possibility of there having been giant humans in the past, as recorded in the Bible. So I agree with what he's saying there. Uh, then he talks about ancient reports, how Greek and Roman sources or mythology mention, several other giants. Uh, he writes, furthermore, modern gigantism is not hereditary, whereas the Bible often describes giants as being the offsprings of other giants. We read this in Deuteronomy chapter 9 verse 12, chapter 9 verse 2, and 1 Chronicles chapter 20 verse 6. So the groups known as giants were not simply made up of individuals with the modern form of giganticism. So like he does bring some good points here, trying to defend the Bible's stories of giants, and I think he gives some good reasons to believe that there were like giant humans at biblical times, uh, you know, and these giants don't exist today because their fossils weren't preserved, or they're probably wiped out or something of that nature. So I do like agree with what he's saying here. He says that human fossils are quite rare altogether, since humans are more than capable of avoiding rapid burial in sediment and other conditions that could lead to fossilization of their remains. Like he does give good reasons, so I would recommend reading this article. But my point is, Christians and atheists are inconsistent, because the Christians, the the Old Testament records giants, existing, you know, after the time of Adam and Noah, and as recent as the time of David. We read in 1 Samuel chapter 17 verse 4, and during the time of Joshua there were giants, as recorded in Joshua chapter 18 verse 16, etc., etc. So my point is that when these Christian critics or missionaries like Answering Islam mock that hadith of Adam being very tall and his offspring's getting shorter as time went on. Well, they're just mocking their own Bible, because the Bible says the same thing, that there were giants even after the time of Noah and during the time of Joshua and David. And of course, these giants come from Adam and Eve. And of course, these giants don't exist today. Like, we don't see like a valley of giants as recorded in Joshua chapter 18, verse 16 anymore. We see people of normal height. Normal height is what? 6 feet or something like that. 6 feet or 5 feet or something like that. So like normal people, like I'm pretty tall. I'm like 6'2". But there are people who are much shorter than me, et cetera, et cetera. So normal height I want to say is like 5'5" or something like that. Uh, and we don't see people like sometimes we do see like taller people out there like basketball players are much bigger than probably me and you, but that's like rare. Like people aren't as tall as Shaq or something like that. Like Shaq is like a unique case. You don't see people that tall. Like very very few people are that tall. You see what I mean? Like people are like my height, like 6'2" or 5'5" or some people are like as short as 4 feet. Like people aren't like as tall as the Bible describes. People once were. So the Hadith is definitely correct. We're not getting to the same level as those biblical giants. We're not getting at the giant level of Joshua chapter 18 verse 16. People aren't as giants, aren't as huge as described in Numbers chapter 13 verse 33, or Deuteronomy chapter 2 verse 20. People aren't like I don't know, like 20 feet tall or 30 feet tall anymore. In biblical times, they were, according to the Bible, they were, huge people, probably 20, 30, 40 feet tall, or as big as, 20 feet tall or 30 feet tall. But humans aren't that tall anymore. Like, you don't see, like, 10 feet, people like 10 feet, or 12 feet. That's a very rare phenomenon of people being that tall in in modern times. But in biblical times, there were giants all over the place. So my point is that the hadith does find some factual evidence in the Bible, because the Bible says the same thing, that there were giants. And we know that these giants, their father was, Adam, Noah, etc., since, according to the Bible, all mankind came from Adam. So if they are giants, then it stands to reason that their father Adam was also a giant, thus vindicating that hadith in Sahih Bukhari. So these Christians and atheists, again, are very, very inconsistent and very, very ignorant about what their own Bible teaches. So if you're going to mock the hadith, mock your own Bible. I mock these fundamentalists who try to justify giants in the Bible, like Dr. Tim Shafi, who tries to justify the existence of giants in the Old Testament or in the Bible. Okay, so that's just my 2 cents on this whole inconsistency of Christians. Stay tuned, more videos coming up ahead.